We are picking up with our big news today. Before today's federal court decision ruling key sections of the NSA data collection program as probably unconstitutional, the head of the NSA, General Keith Alexander, told 60 Minutes Sunday why he believes these programs are essential.
How do you know when the bad guy who's using those same communications that my daughters use is in the United States trying to do something bad? The least intrusive way of doing that is metadata.
Joining us now to continue this discussion, Matt Miller, who's a contributor to the Daily Beast and a former Justice Department official under Attorney General Eric Holder, and Jamil Jaffer, Deputy Legal Director for the ACLU. Thank you both for joining us. We were just speaking to Glenn Greenwald, who's been at the center of this story. And Matt, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on some of Glenn's views as well as this ruling today, which clearly rejects some of the arguments that were being made by the Justice Department.
Yeah, I think the ruling today is certainly a setback for the government, but I don't think it's the kind of ruling that anyone over there is going to have a heart attack just yet about. I mean, if you just to put it in some context, if you look at the Affordable Care Act, it was struck down 3 times by different district court judges. It's not uncommon when you're at the beginning of litigation, which is what I think we're at here. And there's a long road forward. I think eventually the Supreme Court will weigh in on this. But
well, Matt, let me just go in on there, though. It is uncommon in this area because, as you know, a lot of the challenges to surveillance previously before these leaks have been dismissed because the courts have said to people suing, hey, you can't even prove you were spied on. That was different today.
Sure, and that's right. They do have standing, and the judge found that. And I think that is a new era, and it means that these programs will be under a new kind of judicial scrutiny now. They were under judicial scrutiny from the FISA court, but this is certainly different. And the judge made a couple of key points. I think the point he made that the government hadn't shown a real concrete effect, that the programs really had thwarted a terrorist attack was a tough point for the government, one they're going to have to do a better job of in their future pleadings.
Jamil, you guys have been working at the ACLU on these cases for years. Your thoughts today?
Well, I think it's a really big deal. It's a carefully reasoned decision by a Bush appointee. It's not. I think I disagree with Matt that it's something that the administration is just going to brush off. I think they're going to take it really seriously, and I think that they have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's a 70-page decision explaining that this major surveillance program, this major dragnet surveillance program that the NSA has been defending for the last 6 months, holding that program is unconstitutional.
Yeah, and Matt, let me read from more of this opinion. I agree. It was pretty striking and strong in its rejection of basically saying the NSA doesn't have these powers under the Constitution, whatever you think of its efficacy. And then, as mentioned, the judge didn't find that the NSA carried the burden of proof about these programs stopping terrorism. But take a listen. The judge writes that simply the government wants it both ways. All of the government's briefs and arguments to the court explain how it's acted in good faith to create this database, and it serves as a valuable tool. Yet then, in one part of the brief, the government asks us to find the plaintiffs don't have the standing because of the possibility that the NSA collected a universe of data so incomplete that it might not have everyone in it. And the judge goes on to say that doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Pretty strong rebuke of arguably the Obama administration or the NSA carrying out its orders in this security arena.
Yeah, and I think he also said that the argument defied common sense, which if you read many government legal briefs about technical programs, that is sometimes common. But look, this is the first judge to weigh in on this. There will be others, and I think the administration is going to make the case about why this is constitutional, why these powers were delegated to them in statute. I think they have a strong argument there, but they're going to have to weigh that with showing what the efficacy of these programs are. I mean, this ultimately comes down to if you can't have absolute privacy or absolute security at the same time, where do you draw the line?
Sure. And Matt, what do you say to, as you heard Glenn Greenwald say earlier, that this really vindicates the reporting that a lot of people have been doing, himself included, and the leakers who put this information out there?
I think it is certainly true that this ruling would not have happened this quickly without the leak that we had. There's just no way that this case could have been brought. But I think we don't know whether this program would have been declassified sometime down the road. The president has signaled that he wanted to review some of these. And then it does bring you into a larger discussion of whether there were other ways for Snowden to bring his concerns either to the inspector generals or other avenues other than leaking vast government secrets. Let's not forget this isn't the only program program that he leaked a lot of other programs, which have caused real harm to national security.
And I think that's a fair point. I don't think you can look at any one ruling as a vindication of the leaks. The leaks are variegated, and this ruling is specifically about this metadata, the idea that the NSA is now getting information on millions of Americans previously undisclosed. There's a lot of other stuff that's been swirling out there, and I don't think we can reach a final judgment on that responsibly. Jamil, I want to play something, though, on this issue around Snowden and the legality of his current situation. Take a listen from 60 Minutes last night.
What would your thought on making a deal be?
So my personal view is, yes, it's worth having a conversation about. I would need assurances that the remainder of the data could be secured, and my bar for those assurances would be very high. It would be more than just an assertion on his part.
Jamil, there you have one NSA official saying they're open to potential amnesty for Snowden in a deal. Others have said no. What do you make of that discussion coming from the NSA itself now?
Well, you know, I'm not in a position to speak on behalf of Edward Snowden, but I can say that there's no way we would have had an opinion like this one without the information that Edward Snowden made public. We wouldn't have been able to have this debate at all. And in some ways, that's the most remarkable thing. I mean, whatever you think about these programs, and obviously I think that a lot of these programs are unconstitutional, but whatever you think about them, there's something to be said for having a public debate about them. That's what you're supposed to do in a democracy. And we can have that debate now, and we can actually litigate these issues in court, which is something that we haven't been able to do for the last 12 or 13 years. Every time we walk into court trying to challenge one of these surveillance programs, the administration's response has been, you can't challenge that because you don't have standing, or you can't challenge that because it's a state secret, or you can't challenge that because it's a political question. So there are all of these threshold doctrines, these procedural doctrines that the government has been able to rely on to keep these issues out of court. And now, for the first time, we can have this debate in court, which is where it should be happening. And
that's what's so interesting about a news day like today, this big ruling, wherever you come down on it, a lot of people feel that we're actually safer as a country and a democracy when we look at these things with our eyes open and figure out what we want the NSA doing in our name. Jamil Jaffer and Matt Miller, thanks for spending time with us today. And Snowden himself did release a statement today that read in part that this will be, quote, the first of many similar decisions on the NSA's authority moving forward. We will keep an eye on this story for you.